Ugh. How's it going, YouTube? It's your boy Do With Dan here, back in the garage for another video. Right now being hit by Hurricane Irma. Really at this point I think it's Tropical Storm Irma. I don't even think it's Category 1 anymore, so nothing to be concerned about. Took today to kind of just clean in my garage. On Mondays, you know, it's like my day off, or really away from like the whole YouTube thing, so it's my day to kind of get things done outside of doing that. So I cleaned the garage. I had to make room for another toy. We've talked about this briefly. But today is September 11th, and I feel obligated to make some sort of post, not because you guys want it, but because I want to, and that's just how it is. September 11th for me is kind of a weird day because it never really affected me directly. I never had friends that died in the terrorist attacks. I never had family that passed away. They were never affected by it. Thankfully, all of my close friends who are cops, they don't live in New York. Firefighter friends, paramedic friends, none of them lived in New York. Weren't first responders, weren't second responders. You know, they didn't. They never tended to the scene themselves. So thankfully, very luckily, I was never affected directly by it. But it's still something that I feel very deeply for, because it was probably one of the weirdest days as an American, probably one of the hardest days as an American ever. And I think this is probably where my patriotism started as a kid, was because of this. See, when the towers fell, I was only 8 years old. And a lot of people don't remember very much as a kid, but early on I had a very photographic memory. I can remember certain things, or if I visit a place one time, I can remember the layout of a restaurant or a store or a building. Just very weird things that I guess would be considered photographic as a young kid. And I remember very clearly sitting in class and my teacher wheeling in a TV on a stand. And it was just the weirdest thing ever, because you know, we never got to watch movies in class. You know, that wasn't like a thing for us. And on top of that, our teacher was distraught and crying, and she couldn't move fast enough to do things. I remember it was very just weird. We all kind of looked at each other. You know, normally as us kids, 8 years old, you know, we're rambunctious and we're very belligerent, and we were dead silent. We had no idea what was going on. And the teacher turns on the TV and just sits in front of it and doesn't say anything. It was just really odd. And on TV, there was one tower just engulfed in fire and flames, and there must have been 100 different camera angles on this thing. I can very clearly remember them panning out and switching to a helicopter, and then the teacher's freaking out, and there's people literally like falling off of this thing. I can just vividly remember people falling off of the building, jumping to their death. I'm like not sure what's going on. I'm not sure if this is a documentary. You know, as a kid, you're not really putting two and two together, and then all of a sudden another plane hits, and you hear crying from the hallways and shrieking, and then that's kind of like when I put together that this wasn't a movie, this wasn't a documentary, this was real life. It was actually happening. And I think that was probably the most focused and disturbed I'd ever been as a kid. I can't really put it into words, the feelings that I felt, or the emotions that I felt. And it was a couple of minutes past, the teacher turns off the TV, and we all gather to the lunchroom, the cafeteria. The teacher kind of half explains what's going on, and parents are coming to try to get their kids out of school, but the school's not letting them leave. People are getting mad, and it's furious, and they're trying to explain to us that we've been attacked, but in a way that kids can understand. I just remember the whole thing being very odd, and this isn't important. It's just kind of like how I wanted to express how I remember it for myself. Why that's important to me is because they told us the next day to never forget. This guy comes on TV, and I don't remember if it was the president or not. I don't remember who it was. I want to say it was the president, but you know, I just don't remember. And he said, "Never forget, always remember." And that's always stuck with me. And it's one of those weird things that, like, even as a kid, it drew me emotionally, and I didn't really understand why it meant so much to me at the time. And now I kind of understand. And that's why I wanted to make just a small video and personally thank our soldiers, our police officers, our paramedics, our firefighters, all the first responders, anyone and everyone who took a vow to protect and serve. Myself, Dan, and hopefully most of my viewers say thank you for helping and doing what you do. There's always been this weird police versus bikers mentality, and one thing that 9/11 did for us on that day was bring everyone together as Americans. On that day, September 11, 2001, there were no black people, there were no white people, there were no Asians, there were no Hispanics, there was no race on September 11, 2001. There were only Americans. Unfortunately, I wish I could say the same today, that we were still strong and united as one. But on that day, I don't think this country had ever been more strong than it was at that time. Every individual rallied together and was united. Believe it or not, I get a lot of criticism for my patriotism, which is really weird, you know. Whether people think I'm too patriotic or people who think it's false patriotism or whatever, you know, it's one of the really weirdest, it's probably one of my weirdest criticisms that I get on this channel. But to me, nothing has meant more than living in this country, because it's given me everything that I have, it's given me you guys. I mean, I can't be thankful enough for this country, so the least I can do is say thank you. Because to me, this country is everything. I'm not gonna say it's the best country in the world, because I think that's totally subjective, but this is the best country in the world for me, and I truly respect it. And this is one of those few days that brings this country together as a whole. We as a society are very quick and easy to forgive and forget. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's very important to remember history. Otherwise, it will repeat itself. So on that note, I want to thank everybody again. I want to thank my current active military. I want to thank my veterans. I want to thank police officers. I want to thank firefighters. I want to thank first responder, EMS, paramedics. I want to thank you guys. You guys do a terrific job. And without you guys, this country would be nothing. So thank you guys very much from the deepest part of my heart. Now, I know a lot of you guys are out there working right now, responding to Hurricane Irma. I hope you guys are safe. I hope everyone else is safe. I hope the families that were affected by this date, I hope they're doing okay. I love you guys, and take care. And like I said, I was just making some room in the garage for the new addition that will go right here very soon.